Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the fourth episode of the Better Coaching Podcast. Today, I want to hop on to talk about courage and vulnerability. And I kind of want to share a story. It's very corny, but I want to share a story with you all because I think that it kind of puts into perspective how powerful this could really be. And so I want to start off by talking about how I define courage and vulnerability and how I like to apply it in my day-to-day life in order to find success. And I would like to give that credit to Brene Brown. I took a class in college, and we talked about her. We dug into her a little bit. And honestly, she was just talking and everything that came out of her mouth, I agreed with 100%. And I had kind of been living my life that way, but I never heard somebody explain it in such a coherent way, in a way that made sense, in a way that can actually, you know, be taken and applied. And so, like I said, I like to give credit to Brene Brown. And so the way that she defines courage and vulnerability is it is a choice. Being courageous and vulnerable, that's a choice. And it's not something that we do every day, but we should strive to do it every day. Being courageous and vulnerable means that you're putting yourself in these positions where you feel uncomfortable. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be feeling what you're feeling. You don't want to be doing what you're doing, or you just completely say no. You shut it down. But what ends up happening is if you do not keep yourself open, if you're not courageous and if you're not vulnerable, what ends up happening is that you lose out on so many opportunities, whether it's work, relationships, or anything else. But the big ones are work and relationships. I feel like, let's say, for example, you got your heart broken, and I'm kind of leading into my own story here. Let's say you got your heart broken and you decided that I'm done with relationships. I'm not going to pursue them anymore. It hurt, it sucked. I got my heart broken. I don't want to feel that again. And you cut yourself off to that feeling. What you're also cutting yourself off of is love, experiences with a partner that you care about, that you love, right? Even if you love that person, but you say no, look at all the things that you're missing out on, right? And so I kind of want to talk about my story here a little bit because it kind of ties in here. I used to date this woman, and I loved her. I loved her a lot, you know, at least for me back then. I loved her a lot, and I loved her hard, like to the point where I was willing to, build a future for the both of us on my own. Blood, sweat, and tears, endless nights of work, trying to just build a future for the both of us. And, there was a level of discipline there, a level of motivation, and a drive to just sit down and work. No complaining. I actually kind of liked it. Um, and what ended up happening was that relationship kind of, turned a little bit toxic to say the least. And after that happened, I didn't realize it, but I did exactly what I said earlier. I closed myself off to it, but I didn't realize I just did it because honestly, I was scared of what would happen again if, I did that and I put in all this work to try to build this future for me and this woman for it to all backfire and now I'm all alone. In a sense, I was doing it for us instead of just me. But that gave me so much energy, so much drive. And it kind of made me mad because at that point I was just a workaholic. I was doing so much and I was on that grind. And, I think back, that happened a couple of years ago, that relationship. And I'm in a new one now, and I've been in it for about a year and a half. And that whole time with this new relationship, I have not been able to tap back into that. And today I realized why. I realized that it was because I was not being courageous enough. I was not being vulnerable, right? I was not being courageous enough to be vulnerable. And, you know, to put it plainly, it was honestly, in my opinion, one of the most detrimental things I could have done to myself. Because it's funny. It's funny because I love this girl more than the last. However, I wasn't willing to build a future. I wasn't willing to do it for us. I wasn't willing or able to tap into that drive. And, that pissed me off because I was like, if I could have had that 5, 6, 8, 7, 9, 10 months ago, I feel like I would be a completely different person in terms of what I would have been able to accomplish over that time. I feel like in comparison, what I've accomplished now would have been minuscule in comparison, right? And the reason why I talk about the story to bring it back to the courage and vulnerability is because I I put myself in a position that was worse than what it could have been because I wasn't courageous enough. I wasn't vulnerable enough. And I spent a year and a half, if not more, trying to figure out this puzzle. I asked myself, why can't I tap into that again? I didn't know, but I realized today that it was because I was not willing to be courageous enough to be vulnerable and give that again, like give that a chance again. And so I wanted to kind of talk about that so that we can give an example, a real life example of how not being courageous, how not being vulnerable can really be detrimental to your life. In all other aspects of my life, I feel like I am courageous. I feel like I am vulnerable. It's something that I practice every day, and I try to be mindful about it, and I try to go out of my way to be vulnerable and to have courage, enough courage to be vulnerable for the situation at hand. But when it came to that, I don't know why I couldn't do it, but it was so detrimental to me, right? And I'm sure that a lot of people out there, I hope this falls on the right ears, a lot of people out there who say no to things that, you know, decide to hide or whatever it may be for them, whatever it is that's holding them back, you know, try to try to be a little bit more courageous. Try to be a little bit more vulnerable. You need both. You can't be vulnerable without courage, and it takes courage to be vulnerable. I don't know if that even makes sense. I was trying to say something wise there, but you can't have one without the other. It doesn't work. All right. So try to practice being courageous. Try to practice being vulnerable. And if you do, what you'll end up seeing most likely is that your whole world lights up a little bit more, if not a lot. And I want to share this message because I want everybody who listens to this podcast to walk away with a new perspective, a new mindset, a new attitude towards life. And hopefully we can start to create a domino effect or a change so that more people can hear about this, more people can practice this, more people can find success in their life. Because, like I said, if you say no to every single opportunity because you have no courage and you're not willing to be vulnerable, honestly, like, what's the point of really living? You know what I mean? If you want to chase goals, if you have big dreams, you have to be willing to sacrifice. You need to be willing to put yourself in positions where you don't want to be in. You have to do stuff that you don't want to do in order to get to where you want to be. And so I hope you guys, whoever's tuning in, I hope you guys found some value from this episode today. I want to say thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great day.